All right. So let me ask you something else, just coming from a person who has a brother who is an active addict. Um, what are you? Do you have anything on? I didn't see it, but do you have anything about addiction on this platform or any other platform?
We
And
don't have
even though
anything
it's
on
not
that.
addiction, even though his situation is different. Okay. I
Yeah,
just
we
wanted to
don't
know
at
because
this time.
yeah, because people always ask, different questions about the different topics that I cover. And
Yeah.
it's something that and it's it's almost nuanced, even though it's probably not, but it is almost nuanced that his situation that happened and different from what I'm talking about as far as with my brother. Um,
Yeah. I'm so sorry you're struggling with that. That's so hard.
it's just I'm kind of detached from it, really, because it's been since I was like 5.
Oh,
So, it's a very long, long, long uh issue or journey, as it were.
yeah.
Um, so where this is so sudden, but yeah, um, people don't talk about what your son went through.
Not nearly enough.
Hmm.
And I originally, when we found out the cause of death, I originally didn't plan to say anything because I didn't want that to define him. I didn't want people to buy into the stigma that he somehow deserved that because he made a bad choice, or that he had an addiction problem, or
Right,
any of those things that people think. I didn't want that to be his legacy and how he was
right,
remembered. So I almost
totally.
didn't say anything. And then I thought, if this can happen to us, it can happen to anybody.
Hmm.
And Lance wasn't that person. Yes, he was reckless. Yes, he made a bad choice. Yes, he did something he shouldn't have done, but that wasn't how he lived his life. He wasn't an addict. That's not what he was doing.
Mm-mm.
Um, so I felt like his story needed to be shared, because if it makes one
Yeah.
person think twice before they make a similar decision,
Hmm.
it will have been worth it. And when you put a face to a story, a face to a caution, and say, this happened to this person, and you have a face that you can remember in your mind, then hopefully that makes people think twice, and they'll remember Lance, and they'll remember what happened to him, and they'll say, I'm going to make a better choice, and they'll still be here tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
And that's not to say that I think that, addicts aren't important. Addiction is a mental illness, and it's a valid medical condition. And, I think so many times it's a self medicating situation. And I hope and pray that they all get the help that they need. And in no way am I saying that they deserve that. Nobody
no,
deserves that.
no,
Um,
I don't hear that at all.
but I do feel like there's a difference between being poisoned and an overdose. And I was pretty upset that Lance's death certificate says that he died of a fentanyl overdose, because he didn't even know that he was taking fentanyl.
Ugh,
He was
yeah,
murdered. He was poisoned.
yeah, totally. Absolutely. It is completely different. It really is. And it's almost like yeah, it's just like if I think about, and n- just thinking about like I said before, the things that I did or took or whatever for whatever reason when I was younger, we didn't think about that, but now you have to. So I do like that, you're able to talk about it because it's like somebody out there, whether it's the person or the partner or parent or whatever the situation is, it would make you think for sure about doing something.
Right.
Absolutely. So I really appreciate you opening up and being vulnerable about this and talking about this, and also that this is his legacy.
Yeah.
This foundation, this fund, his words of why not?
Yeah.
Like
And, it's such a simple question. And
yeah.
I remember so clearly him saying, "Well, why?" And I was kind of
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
because we're not paying other people's bills. That's why.
right." And I could have just left it at that, but
Yeah.
he continued, and he really wanted to save that dog. And
Mhm.
Peppy's alive today because of Lance.
Right. And it's like, it's also just that different perspective and a younger person's perspective, also, I think is amazing to just
Yeah.
ask those questions of why not. So,
And it truly has changed the way that I rescue, if I'm being honest, because I'm a little bit ashamed to admit that previous to that, we did have people surrender their dogs, and not because I was like, well, you're not a good dog owner
yeah.
if you can't take care of your pet, but I hadn't really considered any other option. And why I had never considered any other option until Lance had said that, I don't know. But I'm a little bit ashamed that I didn't. Like, that's something that I should have thought of. We don't need to take people's pets away. Let's help them keep them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Lance said it that I finally went, wow,
Yeah.
we, yeah. So I
Yeah.
truly believe he sent me that message. And I truly believe that this is what he wanted us to do.
100%. I believe that too. And I saw his bros tattoo on his hand. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was awesome too to see that, and that woman had a rose tattoo like that on her hand too. So
Yeah. It's
what a
amazing.
yeah, what a great story. And just like talk about just everything connecting, even in what could be what is tragedy, you can connect and get something good out of a situation like
Yeah.
that. Let me see. I think I don't know what else I wanted to ask you. Tell me what else. Do you have anything else? Your screen is like I can hear you, but I can't see you anymore. Um,
Oh, really? I can see
yeah.
you. Huh.
Hi. Hi.
Um, Hi, is it better?
No, you're gone. Now, okay. So, Crystal, I want to talk about what animals you have that have four legs. I heard a bunch of two leggers.
Yes.
You got four leggers there? Talk about those four
So
leggers.
I do. So we have 5 dogs of our own, and then we've got a hospice foster. So
Aw.
we've got Lance's dog, Cato, his husky. We've got
Mhm.
him now. He's now ours. And then we've got Oliver, who's my 14-year-old blind diabetic guy.
Aw.
And we've got Chester, who was rescued off of the streets of Kansas City, Kansas by the Kansas City trappers. They were trying to trap another dog, and Chester ended up in their trap. And he was so terribly matted that you couldn't even tell which end was up. Um, and
Wow.
the trapper was actually a groomer, so she got him all cleaned up, and no owner was ever found. And so Chester, Lance just loved Chester, and so Chester never left. And then we've got Lola, who is 12, and she's my soul dog.
Aw.
And yeah, and then we've got Phelpsy, and Phelps, he's a dog that Positive Tails rescued on Memorial Day of 2022, and he was found by a rescue friend in Oklahoma. Not by her directly, but a utility crew doing some work underground found him down
Hmm.
in the sewer.
Oh.
They said the vet estimated he'd been down there probably for 2 weeks. He
Aw.
had gangrene in his tail, and
Ew.
all of the paw pads were rotted off of all of his feet from standing in the water for such an extended period
Oh.
of time. They're not sure if he was
Mhm.
put there intentionally or if he was swept away in some flooding that they had had.
Mm.
Um, but he weighed 16 pounds, and he's an Australian cattle dog mix. And today he's 43 pounds. So it
Yeah.
just tells you how emaciated he was.
Oh my
So he
gosh.
had gangrene in his tail. He was becoming septic. His feet were just a mess. There was no pod pads left. It was just down to
Mm.
the bone. So that must have
Mm.
been so painful for him standing in that dirty
Can't even
water
imagine. Yeah.
with those feet. So we got him here, and it took about 8 months for him to be fully recovered. He had to have
Mm.
his tail amputated, and then my husband took him to the vet every day for over 3 weeks so they
Mm.
could debride his feet and clean them up and rewrap them.
Mhm.
And his feet took, it was probably 6 to 8 months. I think it was 8 months
Wow.
before he was healthy enough to be deemed adoptable. And by that time, my husband was head over heels in love for him. So
Yeah.
he's a daddy's boy through and through. So he just never left. And then we've got Pip. She's our hospice foster, and she's just the cutest little psycho you'd ever want to meet.
I
She
love it.
she came to us at 6 weeks old, and she was surrendered by a breeder because she was blind. And ended up finding out that she's blind because she's hydrocephalus. So
Oh,
the hydrocephalus has cut off the basically the optic nerve, so she has
yeah.
no vision at all. I
Wow.
thought originally that she could maybe see shadows, but we took her to the ophthalmologist who said that no, there's no connection at all
Nothing.
between her eyes and her brain.
Wow.
Um, but that has resulted in a high level of fear because she's blind and her brain's a little wonky. And so she gets scared. And when she gets scared, she just starts biting whatever she can
Hmm.
land.
Mhm.
So we ended up keeping her because she's unpredictable and a little bitey, and we didn't want anybody
Mhm.
getting hurt. But she manages fine here, and we love her deeply. So she will just
Mhm.
stay here. They told us that she maybe had a year to live, and she will be 2 in July.
Ah, well, screw
So,
you guys. She's living
so
forever.
yeah, but she's just a stubborn little thing who's gonna show
Yeah,
them. So, but she'll just live her days for whatever time she has. She'll just live here with us. Again, my husband absolutely adores her, and she's a daddy's girl. So,
I love it.
um,
Your husband sounds like a good guy for sure. Like,
he really is. I mean, he's
100%.
yeah, he is so supportive of everything that we do, and I
Yeah.
couldn't do it without him. I mean, the rescue kind of takes over our house and all of my
Yeah.
free time, and he's here for all of it. And it's
Yeah.
usually him asking to keep the dogs and not me, which is
That's
kind of backwards.
hilarious. Yeah, exactly. You're like, "No," and he's like, "Come on, honey, let's keep them."
Yeah. And our rule is that we only keep the ones that can't just go anywhere and be successful.
Yeah.
The adorable, perfect, highly adoptable puppies, we don't keep those. We keep
Yeah.
the ones that need us.
Yeah. Yep. And that's great because um from a behavioral aspect, I always bring it back to training and behavior, is that if you were to adopt those dogs out, even a well-meaning person, um, it's a lot to put on a pet owner, and
Yes.
that maybe not be as a little crazy as us and a little more, you know what I mean? Like, not that we're
Yeah.
crazy, but we just have that extra go kind of thing. And I think, that I know that that was something that I had run into in my career in the past, especially. Um, and I think it was just, we don't have the room. Let's get this dog out. They want this dog, da da da. And then the person is left with a huge training bill if they do training, or perhaps the dog shouldn't have been out at all. There's so much to it. And there was one thing I did want to touch on that you had mentioned, and I don't know how we got off topic, but that's my ADHD brain going on little sideshows here. But you had mentioned, that you had felt bad about, you know, s- some people who had to turn their pets in and that type of thing. And um, from like if they weren't able to, do that medical bill or what have you. And I too had that just that kind of like why, and maybe a little judgy and stuff. And I know you've absolutely have realized this by this point, and doing all the hard work that you guys do, but it's like it takes a lot for people to make that decision, and it usually takes a long time, longer than what most people think,
Yes. Yeah.
to give up their pet, and you know, we have adopted my partner's coworker's dog, Love, and she's 3 years old. And um you know, she they were thinking about it for a long time, like about a year. And it was circumstance. It was, we have other dogs, but they're smaller. Not that they don't need as much exercise, but they didn't have a yard. They were going to get a yard with the house, and everything fell through. So they had to go back to their living situation. And it's like, it took them a long time, But the other side I want people to think about too is, of course, I'll bring it back to this, is that the dog stresses, you know. She was really stressed out for a while and she's still adjusting. And we've had her since mid October, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, the first 3 weeks, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be really hard for her. And then all of a sudden, you know, we have the other dog and everything. And then all of a sudden, she started playing with Tony. It wasn't Tony just being like, hey, let's play. Come on. The annoying
That's
little
good.
brother, you know. But, you know, it takes that time and people
It
don't
does.
see that. So,
Yes, absolutely. It does
yeah.
take that time, and so many people don't give them that time. And of course that's something we lecture about, and we send home, information on the 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months rule. And it's there's a lot of people that
Oops, I lost you. I want to hear about the 3 days, 3 months, the
phone
threes.
again. Sorry, that was
Wait,
my phone again.
I lost you again. Hey, your picture's back. Yay. So
Yay.
you had mentioned the three threes. Talk about that.
So yeah, we just send home information on the, give them time to transition. And it takes 3 weeks or up to 3 months for a dog to completely relax and show you
Mhm.
who they are and realize that they're at home. So really, until we've reached that 3 month mark, we don't really still know completely who that dog is.
Mhm.
And we have so many people that just don't give them that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Um and I'm sure you see it, but I see it online a lot where it's like this one dog was returned 8 times and because
Right.
of this and this and they were only adopted out for they only stayed overnight 8 times, you know, and it's like, my god, people.
Right.
Give the
Just
damn animal a chance to breathe.
right. And I wish people would realize that they don't know the rules coming into your home. It takes time to
No.
teach them that. They
Yeah,
don't intrinsically know when they come home where you want them to sleep or where you want them to potty or what it's okay to chew on. So we need to teach them that.
exactly. Exactly. They weren't born with that knowledge,
Right.
you know, and it's our job as pet owners and my job as a dog trainer and your job as a rescue group organization to educate people as best as we can. We can't force them to listen, even though we would love to have that kind of
Absolutely.
control so we could keep these pets in their homes. But you know, there is that, you know, and I tell people, you know, when you move into a new location with your dog, it's a whole new location. You know you're moving, they don't know. They know
Right.
some shit's going down. Everything's disappearing in the house that they're in now in these brown boxes and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden they're in a completely new environment,
Yeah, it's scary.
you
They don't
know?
know.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
So it is important to give them time to adjust and just, you know, relax
Absolutely.
and breathe. Yeah. Well, I so appreciate your time and your vulnerability and bringing your son's story to the forefront and all that you do
No,
with the
thank you.
dogs, you know, and between the rescue group and the foundation, the memorial fund. I love it. And I'm
Thank you
going to
so much.
send, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, Crystal, thank you so much.
So good to talk to you, Maria. Thank you so much
Same
for your
here.
time.
Take care. See you
Thank
soon.
you. Bye
Bye.
bye.